everyone,
and welcome to another episode of
ITT Podcast,
which stands for In This Together Podcast. Our podcast is our honest take on relationships, love, and marriage, with the aim of sharing our views and experiences for you to take from it whatever you need.
So whether you're single, dating, in a relationship, or happily married, there is something in it for you.
Hi everybody. So today's episode is called Are Modern Women Really Too Masculine? And we'll be talking about whether modern women are really showing up as too masculine in relationships. And we're going to talk about whether or not this is a real thing or if it's just an exaggerated phenomenon for the internet. We'll talk about social expectations, cultural influences, and the impact of the media on this. So stay tuned and let's have a chat. So first of all, guys, we've recognized that we have not uploaded anything in a few weeks.
Sorry.
Not the automatic sorry. But yeah, we came back for season 2. We thought we were ready.
Promised we're going to be bringing out fresh
Content
every week, but sorry, y'all.
No, to be fair, it's been a hard few weeks because we've had half term in school. We've had hay fever attacking all of us in this household, and we've had work.
Yeah.
It's really hard actually juggling. It's quite hard trying to juggle the podcast and working full time for us. Yeah. So we're doing our best.
We are.
But we're back again. I can't with this guy. And another thing that we've changed is we're going to be talking about a different topic. Are modern women really too masculine? So we're going to go for a different topic that kind of ties in with the last topic that we did on submission. So we thought we'll just say that and just apologize for not being here for the last 2 weeks.
Sorry, guys.
We're going to get on full form.
Properly now.
Yeah, we're going to be back on full form.
Fingers crossed.
Not fingers crossed. Oh, goodness. Okay, so are modern women really showing up as too masculine?
Yes.
In these streets?
Yes, they are. Let's end it there. Yes, they are. They need to stop it.
Oh.
No.
Well, first of all, what made us talk about this topic? Because last week we said we were going to talk about love languages.
Yes.
And then we were kind of having a conversation off the back of the submission episode we did last week. Well, the last time. It wasn't last week.
Doesn't matter.
The last conversation we had, we talked about submission, and we thought that this was a good one to kind of do at this point, because I think we did want to talk about femininity, masculinity.
Yeah.
And off the back of the submission conversation, we thought it would be good to touch on whether or not modern women are too masculine, because this is a common critique in social media these days, and just in general about modern women being much more masculine, not as feminine. And it kind of ties into what we spoke about last week about submission. So, yeah. What do you think?
As you said already, this has been an ongoing debate, not just in the media, but in private as well.
Where in private? Has it been in our house?
Private airports. Sorry, don't mind me. No. This is important to us because for the past few years, there has been an ongoing debate regarding gender roles and the changing dynamics within society. So I think this is something that we had to touch on.
Yeah. Traditional ideas of femininity and masculinity are kind of being redefined. There's a lot of talk about toxic masculinity.
I know, right? Yeah.
Toxic femininity is being thrown out there as well. I've heard some toxic femininity, and it's leading to a kind of exploration of how women navigate the shifting expectations of gender roles, and also exploration of what is masculine, and are men even, succumbing to toxic masculinity? Do men even want to be masculine? So we'll aim to draw from social, cultural, and personal experiences to kind of talk about this and just kind of discuss the complex nature of masculinity and femininity and how this kind of dynamic plays out in relationships and what we think, whether or not modern women really are showing up as too masculine.
And do people really understand what masculinity
Here we go.
means? Do they really understand?
You and your definition.
No, because we have to. I know sometimes you have to just look at what the definition of these things mean, because we can. I mean, we spoke about submission.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of you listening to this right now will look back and think,
there was some points.
There were some points out there, so I think we should do exactly the same to this.
Okay, I'll define masculine because it's all about whether or not I'm showing up too masculine as a modern woman. Okay. And you can define feminine just to flip it, I guess.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So masculine, dictionary.com defines this as pertaining to or characteristics of man or men having qualities traditionally ascribed to men, such as strength, boldness, competitiveness, that kind of stuff. And what say you about femininity?
Femininity and feminine is defined as pertaining to a woman or girl having qualities traditionally ascribed to women as sensitivity and gentleness.
Such as
soft, like softer, the soft spoken.
I think the key word in both of these definitions are qualities and traditionally.
Yeah.
Because it all talks about having qualities traditionally ascribed to men, having qualities traditionally ascribed to women. So it's not as if the qualities themselves are automatically masculine. They're just traditionally ascribed to men or ascribed to women. So strength and boldness and competitiveness and all of that. That's really the definitions, defining words that link to masculinity.
But what do we mean when we said ascribed to men? Are we saying that when someone says, oh, that's a lady or that's a woman, are we saying that those are the words that are associated with being a lady? Is that what I'm guessing that's what it's saying, right?
Being a woman. You and lady. What is this?
Lady. Don't mind me.
I don't know if we are in the 1930s.
Just leave me alone, man. I'm just trying to like bring on my Michael Jackson there.
All right, let's talk about the ladies. So, as a lady myself, I think that is some of the things that we ascribe to women. I think when we say we ascribe, I think it's words that we have given to be associated with women traditionally. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because even when we look at the traditional ascribing of words to men and women, a lot of it, I think a lot of it is to do with how we've kind of navigated in terms of gender, families, households, that kind of how we've kind of lived in society in terms of the roles that we've taken on. And so because of that, we tend to have these different attributes. And I think some of it is rooted in biology as well. So if we're thinking about the fact that women give birth, you're more likely to be the nurturing type. And not all women are nurturers, because not all women are nurturers. Just because you give birth doesn't mean you're a nurturing type. There's some men that are more nurturing. But if you think of it like biologically, you're more likely to nurture the human that you gave birth to. Yeah. And you're more likely to kind of protect their well-being in that kind of way. Yeah. And so I feel like there is definitely something there around biology links to the traits that we ascribe to men and the traits that we ascribe to women. But a lot of it is also to do with the roles that we play in society.
That is true. That is true, yeah.
But I do think sometimes what people fail to take in is that we as human beings have masculine and feminine qualities to us. We have it as women, masculine and feminine, and we have it as men, masculine and feminine. The only thing is that society encourages us to tap into one more than the other. Yeah. And I think in the past, they encouraged women to tap into their feminine more than their masculine, and encourage men to tap into their masculine more than their feminine. And that's understandable because you need balance in life. So it makes sense. But I think now we're kind of moving away from that a bit, because some of the things that women are doing in today's day and age is a lot more tapped into the masculine, like achieving, competing, and it's much more tapped into the masculine, and that could be threatening the dynamics.
But is that really is that really tapping into the masculine though, like achieving? I mean, as human beings, we all want to achieve. So we all like try to aim higher. Like every time we achieve something, we want to aim even higher. I don't think it's a masculine or feminine thing. I think it's just a human thing, that, you know, the urge to get better, to do better. So
I think it depends on what lens you're looking at it through. Because if we're looking at it traditionally, it is masculine, because who were you really competing against if you were the homemaker? You know, whereas a man going out to work, whether they were hunter-gatherers or they were going out into the office vying for that promotion, or they're working in, you know, the coal mines, or, you know, whatever job the man was doing, or however the man was bringing food home or money home or whatever he needed to, he was always in a competitive state, if you see what I mean. Yeah. And so if you're looking at it from that context, I feel like women were not required to be as competitive as they may be required to now if we're in the job market, if we're out in that, you know.
Yeah, but I get that.
But competitiveness is a human trait. Yeah, I understand.
Because you could, you know, being a woman, you're the one at home and whatnot, but you can still have that competitiveness. You still want to achieve things, write a book,
be the best,
you know. So I think it's a valid point. It's a really good point.
Okay, so let's look at some of the actual questions. So
yeah,
are women really showing up masculine, and why is this the case if we think so? What do you think?
Personally, I think, are they really I don't know if they are. There's a lot of debate about it. There's a lot of discussions about it. But there are reasons why they are showing up masculine, don't they? Because if the situation requires them to become more masculine, you know, i.e. they need to take care of the household, because obviously a man is not there, then they will have to. I think society forces the woman to get into that position, because if a man is not around and the woman doesn't take care of the family, then the blame always falls to the woman. So she has to
step up. She has to take on. Yeah, I think you're right. Sometimes women feel that they have to play the role that would have traditionally gone to the man. Yeah. I think where we don't have two-parent households all the time now, there are children that are only being raised by their mother. You're going to get that duality in that person, because they're having to kind of be feminine, but at the same time they have to be masculine, because they have to provide and they have to basically just be the breadwinner in that home. So I just think I think the social media discussion is just being intellectually dishonest. I think it's clear as day what's happening in our society. And it's like, where we're going to have more single parents, single mothers, because in this case we're talking about masculinity, masculine women, so to speak. If you're going to have more single mothers, you're going to have more masculine women.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have more masculine women in the sense that they're having to take care of things and take care of themselves and be really independent, then it's going to be hard for them to switch that off when they get into a relationship, especially if they're not made to feel that they can switch that off.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I feel like there's a lot of blame as well, where it's just kind of like, oh, you know, you're too independent, you're too outspoken, you're too... Yeah, because at the end of the day, if she's had to kind of rely on herself, she's going to grow a sense of, she's going to tap into those traits that are more so assigned for men.
But at one point, women were encouraged to be independent.
Yeah.
You know, there was a certain point whereby there was a big push for independent women being independent.
Yeah.
So I guess during that period, a lot of women became independent.
Yeah. Yeah, there was the pressure to become
more independent. If you were not independent, you were looked, it was frowned upon that, oh, you know, so you rely on a man, you should have to rely on a man. But it wasn't, this is why I think it's dangerous sometimes when we put out certain messages to society about becoming independent. There's nothing wrong with being independent, but you're independent, aren't you?
Yeah.
Would you not say in this marriage, you're still independent, but I think some people have taken that independence the wrong way, as in, I don't need a man kind of thing. I can do everything on my own. I can do this on my own, which, yes, you can, but to what extent? Because obviously if you're going to start having kids and stuff, you want to
have both parents. Yeah, you want
parents. I think that's had a huge impact on it. And because of that, a lot of women have now been forced to step into that masculinity role. They've now had to take on the role that men normally play, because with that kind of empowerment, with anything, any argument or whatever, you can have the man out, because there's that empowerment that you can do it alone. You can do things, you can do whatever you want, which is the truth. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
the empowerment, I definitely support that. I definitely encourage that. But I believe there's a danger if we carry on this path. It's going to lead to more masculine women.
But I think, what's the alternative? Because the world we live in today, women have to be independent. Each person, whether they're male or female, encouraged to be independent from the moment you become an adult.
Yeah, that's true.
So this notion of, women are too independent, it's kind of like, but we have to be independent. That's kind of the way society runs nowadays. Men and women are expected to work.
Yeah.
You know, so you're going to have women with independence. The alternative to kind of address this issue of whether or not women are being too masculine is probably going to be a switch to traditional gender roles. That, because to me it seems like if you want women to be more feminine, you need men to then kind of take on the masculine role more.
Be more masculine.
And if we're encouraging men to be less masculine, tap into their feminine side, you know, all of that, then it's almost like we're looking for kind of a duality in both men and women.
Yeah.
So you can't just encourage men to be more sensitive, more understanding, more compassionate, more, you know, in touch with their feelings, and then say, but women being more masculine is wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem to make sense. No, you're not going to have men like that and then women who are just like completely traditionally feminine. The whole point is that we both exhibit a bit of both.
Yeah. But wouldn't marriages be more successful if both man and woman plays both masculine and feminine, like if they're both switched it on now and then?
Yeah.
Because a man could be, you know, going through issues. And imagine being in a relationship or a marriage where the woman can hold down the family if something happens to the man.
Yeah.
And the man can switch on this femininity when the woman is under pressure and
she needs that compassion and support.
You know, support, and he can just flip it and be there for her, rather than just being in that masculine state.
Yeah, that
all
toxic
the time.
manner.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that's my view of it as well. I feel like we, from a baseline standpoint, we all have masculine and feminine energy in us. We both need to know when to use each. And I think that the reason why modern women are probably being accused of being too masculine is because their independence and their masculine energy is becoming overbearing, or is being perceived as a threat to the man, because there is that want to be needed and that desire to feel like they have a place in the life of the woman that they want to be with. And because of that, some men feel like they need the women to be a bit more soft. And I think a lot of women as well probably feel like they would want to be a bit more softer or to be a bit more sensitive and gentle. But I think women in this society need to feel safe to do that, because women are not that safe in this society in that regard. If you think of the fact that there's a lot in society today that I think would make women feel like they need to really stand up for themselves, or they need to make sure that they can protect themselves. Yeah. And I'm talking about unmarried women. So obviously we're talking about this in relationships, but the women are coming into relationships this way. So you kind of have to go back and think about women that are not in relationships in order to understand why they're showing up in relationships this way. So if we're thinking about the way women can find themselves at the mercy of a man, maybe being attacked, or sexual violence, or, harassment. And, there's a lot in society today that we're more aware of. We interact a lot more with people because women go out to work. They're in the workplace. They're out and about much more than they were in the past. And so because of that, we're much more at risk and in danger. And so there is this notion, especially if you're not married, that you need to really be able to look after yourself, stand up for yourself. You think about self-defense classes, things like that. So there is this cultivating of independence in women in order to strengthen them to survive the way society is today. So then when you take that kind of woman and you put her into a relationship, that modern woman, she's coming with a lot of this self-reliance. In order for you as a man to deactivate, not necessarily deactivate that, but to kind of
try like suppress that.
Maybe not suppress, but try and soften that.
Yeah. That's a really good point. But I do think women that are like that, this comes back to, as a man, we need to protect our women. Because if a woman, as you've just described, if she comes into a relationship and she feels 100% that her man will protect her no matter what, there wouldn't be any issue in terms of like softening, because she can then let her guard down.
Yeah.
But I do feel like a lot of women do not feel fully protected right now. That's probably why they keep their guard up. That's probably why they will not soften up. They feel like any minute now they could be by themselves, or they may need to rely on themselves. So it's kind of like always on their guard all the time. It's never just fully like, right, I'm with this person, I'm just gonna, that's it, I'm just gonna like let my guard. That's how it feels.
Be vulnerable. Yeah, I agree. I feel like a woman doesn't automatically show up in a relationship as masculine by choice. I think she might show up as masculine because that's what she's used to. And throughout that relationship, especially at the start, it will depend on how she's made to feel, like you're saying. Whether or not she can soften that, and whether or not she can be in her feminine.
But okay, I'm just going to throw this out there. But do they really show up masculine though?
I don't even know.
Because I do feel like some men, successful women, scare them. Successful women threaten them. They're threatened by successful women, so they can put that down as like, oh, she's too masculine, because their attitude, their brain is quite disrespectful to women. They feel like women should know their places. If I'm just going to be controversial.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Say women should know their places. They shouldn't be trying to. There's some men out there that probably feel like they should be trying to aim too high. Out-achieve guys and whatnot. Let the man do that.
Men don't care about your achievements.
Exactly. Men don't care about that kind of nonsense. So when a woman comes in and she's got her degree, she her finances are great, she's got everything on point, they feel like, oh, okay, soften it down a bit. Like you're too masculine. And
then she stands up for herself in an argument.
This is what I'm saying. I question that when I hear that, oh yeah, she's coming to this relationship, I feel like she's a bit too masculine. You really have to dig a bit deeper. Like, what do you mean by that?
Some men might just say, and I'm just trying to be kind of thinking about it in both sides. Some men might just say, like, she's not like soft enough. She argues with me and shouts, for example, which is shouting is masculine. It's a masculine energy thing. Or she's like, she's combative, like we'll go back and forth like I'm arguing with a man kind of thing. But maybe,
But that goes back to leadership. Because she's pushing back because she doesn't one, feel protected. Two, she doesn't have confidence in your leadership. Because when someone has confidence in your leadership, they will not come back to what you're saying. There wouldn't be any going back and forth. There'll be a discussion about situation or whatever it is, but it's not going to be like, oh, she's been headstrong, she's been this and that. I mean, we've been married for years now. There's a lot of things we disagree on, but I don't think we butt heads like that. We have discussions about things and we discuss how we're going to progress it. So this whole that actual person may have an attitude problem. They may have like a anger management issue. That it may not be masculinity. It may just be like she doesn't trust your leadership, or she has issue with how you're leading. She
doesn't.
Like, she may not even know it. Like, she may not even be able to express it that, oh, it's your leadership that I have a problem with. So it's just like, oh no, I don't know.
Pushing back. She's pushing back a lot. Your judgment.
So I think sometimes when they discuss this in the media or in social media, I think they're focusing on the wrong things. I think we look at the arguing, she's saying that she could
back chats. It's true. It's like, how are you making her feel? How is this? Because I feel like all women could be feminine, and I feel like we've got feminine in us. I think the issue is that, like I said, I think society encourages us to lean more into our masculine. And just because you're independent, the way I see it, just because you're independent and you're a woman and you can take care of yourself and you probably don't need a man to survive, I think it comes down to, do you want a man? Do you want a man in your life? And if you do, what role do you plan to play in his life? What kind of person do you want to be in his life? Just because you're independent and you're successful and you're a high achiever, it doesn't mean that you have to have your guard up. You don't have to be combative. And I think when I say combative, I mean it's about how you kind of talk and how you carry yourself, the kind of energy you put out there.
Yeah.
And, I talk a lot about, like, me and Frank we talk a lot about energy and vibes and stuff like that. And it's like feminine energy is a lot more self-assured, in my opinion. If you're going to bring feminine energy into something, it's like a calming energy.
Yeah.
And it's a knowing of yourself, like knowing you don't have to shout, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. I think feminine energy is really powerful energy. It can be soft, it can be sensitive, but I think it's the kind of energy that can make things happen. It's a creative energy, compared to masculine energy, which is much more of like a doing. I feel like the feminine energy is more receiving. You kind of draw to you what you want. You draw to you what you need. So I feel like there's a calmness that you can come with, even if you're independent, even if you're really, really self-assured, that can still make a man feel like he's still got a place in your life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I also think it starts with the man. And I know that's going to be controversial because it's like, oh, here we go again, a woman saying it starts with the man.
But I agree though.
Yeah, I think it starts with the man. I think it's like if you give a certain energy to a woman, she will receive that and kind of cultivate that and put that energy back into the relationship.
Yeah.
Even if you think of the fact that women give birth, the woman receives what is needed in order to grow that baby, and then she gives back into the world a child. So I feel like there is biological link in there as well about us being kind of receivers. And I think because of that, I think men sometimes I don't think men always recognize how much power they have in a relationship to kind of almost shape that relationship. Yeah, I think you can really shape the relationship you have with a woman.
So be the positive energy. So the woman receives the energy.
Yeah, and gives that back. If you're always cheating on her, or you're always like talking down to her, or you're aggressive, then she's going to give you aggressive energy.
Yeah.
You're cheating on her, so she's not trusting you. She's not confident in you. You're just going to get the energy that you give out. You can't be the kind of man that doesn't make her feel comfortable and then expect soft, comfortable, self-assured feminine energy to come from her.
So basically the input would amass to the output. So if you input positive energy, a lot of affection, a lot of respect and stuff,
you get that back. And I think women respect men that can love them right. I know that sounds, and I'm just saying this from a woman's perspective, like if I can see that you treat me right, I respect that in you as a man, because to me it means that you're an actual stand-up guy, like you're someone to be respected. If you mistreat me, then how am I supposed to respect you? Because you're not even treating me right. So I don't see you as a guy that is worthy of my kind of respect. I just think you're going to end up going back and forth with a woman like that. I think that one of the issues is women shouldn't stay with men like that to then start disrespecting them, and then for it to become a whole masculine feminine thing.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of it has gotten to. They stay, and then it becomes a little more toxic, and then it's...
Yeah, because you're not really honouring boundaries. You're not honouring your standards. You're in a relationship with someone that you shouldn't probably be in. Because they're not bringing out the best in you. They're not bringing out the feminine energy in you.
I'll be completely honest with you. I don't like when a lot of people that discuss it don't have the full picture, but they want to have an opinion about it by saying, oh yeah, a lot of women these days have like masculine energy.
But what do you think they're missing in that? Because there are some men that might have been really nice and they've encountered women that are just like really competitive and argumentative and attitudey and just like...
But that's not masculine. They've just got attitude problem. They've just got... Because regardless of... If we put the whole masculine and femininity aside and we just look at personal issues, we just look at people that have behavioral problems and whatnot, that has nothing to do with masculinity or femininity. You've just got issues, bruv, or lady, you've got issues. That could be I get the feeling that sometimes that is just, there's an overlap. It's like, she's got this attitude, she's like, that, but that's not masculine energy. It's not at all. She's just got an attitude problem, or she doesn't like your leadership, she doesn't want to be in that relationship. Instead of getting out, she might start throwing things back at you and whatnot. So I think there's something in there.
So what do you think would be masculine energy? Because if you're saying, well, attitude problem, arguing you down...
This is what I'm saying. I don't even know what the masculine energy that women demonstrate is. I can't see it.
Playing the role that a man should play traditionally.
But in this society, we're not even talking about traditionally anymore, are we? We're not like in a hybrid environment right now. No, I'm just saying. Saying. Because if we were in a traditional environment, more women would be at home.
Yeah.
And more men would be at work, right?
Yeah.
That would be the norm. But that's not the norm right now, though.
So what are you saying?
Right now. So what I'm saying is that the whole masculinity discussion, it's another distraction again. It's another distraction again. There's a point to it, and there are women that are like, they're very, like you said, they're very aggressive. They're very, but it's the environment they've grown up in. Maybe they could have a lot of brothers. There are women that have 7 brothers. They're the youngest.
Yeah, they give off that
male because they're competitive, because of the environment they've grown up. They're just more competitive. So I feel like you have to understand individual circumstances before you can start saying women. A lot of women, because I hear the phrase, a lot of women, they give off a lot of masculine energy these days. Am I making sense, or am I just chatting shit?
You're making sense. I think, from what I'm understanding, your perception of it is, we're in this already hybrid world where women do a lot of stuff that men do. Men are encouraged to tap into their feminine traits. And it's kind of like, you're going to get different types of personalities and different types of characteristics from different women and people.
Yeah.
So it's more of an issue of what that woman is bringing to the table, how she's being, than women in general being more masculine or feminine. Because at the end of the day, we're all in a world where we're being encouraged to scrutinize traditional gender roles and masculine energy and feminine energy anyway. So what are we really saying? None of us want to go back to the traditional state of things, because we're all in this hybrid world where women work and men are being more creative and, being more empathetic and stuff like that. So it's like, isn't this what we want? Don't we want a world where we're becoming more blended and we're becoming more...
This is what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying.
There was a push for that, or there is a push for that on one hand, and then on the other hand...
they're being too masculine.
They're being too masculine.
Because it is interesting, because men will say they don't want women that are after them for their money, right?
Yeah.
You don't want gold diggers. You don't want women that want you for your money. But then at the same time, they want women that will be more feminine. But a traditionally feminine woman will want a man who's traditionally masculine, which means he will out-earn her. Because that's traditional. Yeah, so it's
she would need his money. She would use his money.
Yeah.
He would need to provide for her.
Yeah, so if you want that woman that's going to be much more feminine, there is an element of understanding that she will have those traits where you are saying you don't actually want as men. Yeah. You don't want these. But I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, because
what you're saying makes sense. I could imagine women being confused by society right now. Because like I just said, on one hand, no, we don't want gold diggers. We've seen videos where, a bunch of idiot guys secretly recording women, standing for the Ferraris, and then you know those silly videos on Instagram where there's like, oh, this is my car. The lady's like, oh, is it? She kind of jumps into the car like, oh yeah, you're a gold digger, kind of nonsense. We've seen those ones. So
you don't want a woman that cares about your money.
But but you want one that's like, but at the same time, you want a feminine woman that will be at home,
that will see you as the
leader, and all of that. Like, I don't know.
So who's making the money? How is she living?
Exactly. How is she living? Like, she's eating dust.
I don't know. It's very it's interesting.
This society is just confused the situation. I feel like sometimes when I hear discussions on social media, I feel like we are talking about the wrong things sometimes. I feel like, it's just my opinion. Or even if we're talking about the right thing, I feel like we're not discussing the core parts of it.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like, if you want a woman to be more feminine, you have to bring more masculine. You need to bring that traditional masculine energy. You need to be traditionally more masculine. And so the question goes back to the man, but are you masculine? If you're saying she's not feminine enough, are you masculine in that way that will inspire her to rest in femininity, knowing that she's taken care of, she's well treated, she's safe, all of that? Because it's a very traditional thing to say about a woman, right? She's not as feminine. It's like, but you need to really, are you cultivating that in me? And then if that's not what you're trying to say, so you still want a very modern woman, you still want her to be, you know, independent and make her own money, pay for her own rent, take care of herself, look after her body, work out, you know, keep herself pretty and, you know, look after herself and be independent, then you have to accept that there's going to be elements of her that's going to be very similar to you. It's going to be independent. It's going to be outspoken. It's going to be opinionated. It's going to be what you are calling masculine.
Yeah.
But that's because it's actually what you want. So there is this, I do think there is this double standard of wanting strong, independent women when it suits men.
Yeah.
Because God forbid you know, you don't have a job. You want to make sure your wife works. She can look after the household. But at the same time, when it suits you, you want her to switch that masculine energy off a drop of her hat and switch to femininity. And it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You're gonna have the two bleeding into each other somehow. And it's like,
I agree. And I think what society should be discussing is how do we support each other in cultivating both the feminine and the masculine side of all of us. Like,
in a positive way.
How do we cultivate it? Not, you know, he's too masculine or he's too feminine or this. I know, how do we cultivate the parts?
Yeah.
Because if we can get that right,
get the balance right, use them at the right time. Because if I'm had a hard day at work as a woman, I just want to talk to my husband about it and lay on his chest. And I don't want him to be bringing masculine energy to that moment. Exactly. I want him to bring understanding, listening, and some guys, softness.
They won't even know how to respond. Like, that's why some relationships have issues. It's like the guy is 1,000% masculine. He doesn't know how to switch down to that feminine side of himself. Like, okay, tap into it, break it down a notch, and just be there for your partner, for your wife, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they get uncomfortable doing that. They feel like it's kind of like, no,
that's a bit girly.
It's a bit girly. Like, you know, why should we be doing it? It's like, come on, man. It's like,
yeah. I think men who are really secure in their masculinity can do both. I think if you're a man who's quite secure in the fact that you're a man and you don't let other people define for you what being a man is, you can switch it on, you can switch it off, you put a good mix of your masculine energy, your feminine energy, and I think that's when a man is at his best. His top form is when he knows how to tap into all aspects of him. It's emotional intelligence.
And that's what we need to be teaching the youth these days. That's what we need to be teaching the kids these days. That's what they need to know. Tapping into it and not making it into, you know, because there's more discussion about women being masculine than men being feminine, right? Why is that?
Because it's, in a way, we're still biased. We still want women to be very feminine. We still want men to be a lad's lad. We still want men to, you know, to exhibit those traits that can sometimes be toxic if you overdo it, you know? You don't want to cry. You don't want to show your emotion. You don't want to act like you care. You don't want to commit. Yeah, you don't want to be vulnerable. So you can't even commit to someone to be faithful because it takes vulnerability. Yeah.
It's too soft to get on one knees and propose.
One knee. How many knees?
Get on one knee. Sorry, it's too soft to get on one knee and propose.
Right.
It's just too. It's not a lad's thing to do.
Yeah, it's silly.
It's very, very silly.
I think we're not thinking about it in the right way.
I agree.
But in saying that, how can a man be more masculine in your opinion? In today's world where there is a blend, how can a man be more masculine in your opinion? And then I'll give my opinion on how a woman can be more feminine in today's world, in my opinion.
I think a man can be more masculine by tapping into his feminine.
See?
How? By being vulnerable. By being vulnerable. Because...
How does that make you more masculine?
Because you're confident in who you are. You're confident in what you are. By being vulnerable, you show your partner, you show your wife, your girlfriend that, look, I'm being myself. Some women might not like that. That woman's not for you. That's how I see that woman's not for you. If you cannot be vulnerable,
be your
full self, then trust me. Because as a man, I'll give my honest opinion, right? I learned very late to be more vulnerable because that's not how I grew up. But being vulnerable has let me understand myself much, much better. And it's allowed me to, I would say I've transformed fully into a man. This is full transformation here.
Okay.
This is not Transformer 3 that is out right now in cinema. This is full transformation. Like, it's allowed me to be confident in who I am. Like,
and confidence is masculinity. That's that.
Well, yeah.
That's that energy.
So I don't feel threatened by anyone. I don't feel threatened by you. Your achievement, right? I promote your achievement. I encourage you to achieve more. I will keep pushing you. So for me, the more I'm vulnerable, the more I understand myself, because we grow every day.
Yeah.
The Frank today is not going to be the Frank next year. It's going to be a different Frank that wants new things, that want different things, or whatever.
More mature.
More mature. Still want you, obviously. But
hopefully. Different things, huh?
I don't mean that.
Midlife crisis.
I will not change you, babe. I'll still have you there. Don't worry about that. But like, you know what I'm saying though, but I feel like to be more masculine, you need to tap into a lot of your feminine side. You need to be vulnerable. You need to, it's hard to explain, but you need to fully love your partner. And this is what I was saying earlier about protection. Like, you have to protect your wife, your girlfriend. Like, that way, when they feel protected,
yeah,
that will show them that you're masculine. That will show them the masculine side of you.
Come on now.
That will show them the masculine side of you. There's not a lot that you need to do. But the first thing is to drop your guard down, be vulnerable, love that other person.
Yeah.
Without holding back. And then for me, that's like a step. Because you'd be surprised some people can't do that.
But then do you think that it's valid to have to be masculine as a man? Do you think it's necessary to be masculine? Not talking about like the flip side of it, of tapping into your vulnerability to become fully masculine. But do you think you need those masculine traits that they talk about in terms of
I think
strength,
you do,
boldness?
because some women like that. But
even you as a person, like
do you need to
is it beneficial to be masculine as a man, in your opinion?
Is it beneficial to be masculine? I think it is beneficial. I think being a human being, I think as a man, there are certain things you feel. And if you do not have those traits, you feel like you're lacking.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So those traits are needed. They need to be there, because if you often find that some men will be working towards certain things, they want to be more confident, they want to be more whatever, like, because they feel like it's lacking. So you do need those traits there.
But why do you, as a man, why do you feel like you're lacking if you don't have some of these traits?
I think that's how we're designed. I really do feel like that's how we're designed. We're designed to seek certain things. It's almost like it's like a block, and if certain pieces are missing, you want to fill those pieces, and if they're not there, you don't feel whole.
But how much of that is society telling you
could be,
what a man needs to be?
True.
I mean, if you're looking inside you, how much of that, in your opinion, is society? In your opinion,
probably quite a lot of society telling you that, oh, to be a man, you need to be this, that. I think, we're all influenced by society. Even I myself is influenced by social media and society, and like what a man should do.
But don't you want to be free of that? Because some people would say, why should we even care about what society says a man should be? And isn't that what you're encouraging as well? Like, don't care about what people think a man should be yourself fully, and then...
No, but there's two things. There are certain things that societies try to get a man to be, but there are certain things as a man you feel deep down that you need. It's not just about what society is telling you to be, but you know deep down, regardless of social influence or nothing.
Okay.
Because that's how I believe we are built.
How we're made. Okay, that's interesting.
But there are other stuff that society, will throw in there. But what I'm trying to say is, like, even though society do have influence on what we think we want to be like, but there are certain things that we can't get away from.
Do you think certain things are just
I think certain things are just innate. And I think that's the same for women as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there probably is as well. I think there's certain things as a woman you probably just naturally lean towards based on how we're designed. We were designed as male and female, so we were designed differently, and we do different things in this world. And I've always said, because of that, I do think that a relationship works well with gender roles. And I think even most relationships, you'll find that even if it's a same-sex relationship, there will be one leaning towards one role, which is more traditionally feminine, and one leaning towards another role that's more traditionally masculine. Because I feel like there is that balance. There's the yin and yang that always needs to fit, regardless of how it plays out, whether it's same-sex or man and a woman. I feel like we're designed in that way. And people do feel like you'll get people that are male and feel like they exhibit much more feminine energy, much more feminine traits.
True.
And that's because that's how they are. That's just nothing particularly wrong with them. That's just how they are. And there's women that may have more masculine traits than feminine traits. But that's okay. It doesn't mean,
something wrong with it.
It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That's how you are as a human being. But there is definitely that feminine and masculine. It exists. And I don't think it's just gender. I think there is some truth to it. There are certain traits that are more feminine and certain traits that are more masculine. And it's what kind of balance you have within you. And obviously living in this society, women are definitely going to start attributing more of those masculine traits because of survival and the way it has to be. But I think as a woman, if you wanted to be more feminine, like I said previously, just because you're independent and you're successful or you are self-reliant doesn't mean that you have to take on this fully masculine energy. I feel like you can still be feminine if you want to be more feminine by, I think, having a sense of self-confidence. To me, femininity is like a self-assurance, self-confidence. It's like how you carry yourself around people. It's more poised. It's more, I was speaking to someone about this other day and I was talking about the word demure, and it seemed as if I was trying to say you should be more quiet, more subdued, but I think of it as being more regal, being more like calmer. It's almost like a quiet energy. Not that you can't talk, but it's like a quiet self-assurance, I think.
But why do you feel that?
Because I think the more I've grown and the more I've kind of started to understand my innate energy, I feel like it's much more powerful to kind of hold yourself from within, right? To kind of control your own emotions, to have full self-control. And I feel like if you believe that you deserve respect and you carry yourself a certain way, people can't help but to respect you because there's a way that you are. So I don't feel like I have to force anybody to think of me in any particular way. I could just be quietly within myself assured. But I can stand up for myself, and I still do. I still talk and laugh and be outgoing when I feel like it's necessary. But I don't have to be like that all the time. And if there's a disagreement or an argument, like when me and you argue and stuff about things, sometimes in the past, I think when I was younger, I did feel more like I had to win the argument. But now I feel a bit more like I don't have to convince you of something that I know to be true in that kind of argumentative way. If we're not able to get to a conclusion, I could just leave it. We could talk about it another time, but I don't have to exert myself because it's not even necessary. So I think if a woman wants to be more feminine, I think it's about going within. And it's kind of like what you said, being more vulnerable. I think it's about going within and kind of starting to really understand the essence of you and what is important to you, looking after yourself, thinking about your health. It's like an inner work, I think. And then it shines outside because then you start to kind of value yourself, and once you do that, you look after yourself more. You present yourself a bit more in what is more traditionally feminine. Maybe, you do your hair a bit more, you focus on your appearance and you focus on your mental state. And it's like a...
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the looking after yourself is really important.
This is taking a very serious and...
It's not that serious.
...turn. But yeah.
It's not that serious. But it's the truth though. It's just
a different route. I mean, we always go off on some totally different tangent, the whole women.
We are going off on a different tangent because this is what the discussion should be about. It should not be about women are too masculine. It should be about, okay, a man has both masculine and feminine. A woman has both masculine and feminine. We know that, right? Why don't we find a way to cultivate both sides of the coin? why are we not talking about that?
Yeah.
Society would be better if that was the case. No, I do think.
No, I totally get that. But then I guess that's what we're saying. On the question, are modern women really too masculine?
Answer is no. They're no.
You don't think they are?
I don't think they are. I think they're doing what they need to do at that point in time. I think every circumstance is different. Like, you have to consider the background of that person, what they've been through,
what you're doing now, how you'll be
now. So it's kind of like, it's like we just get batched into one and say that, I'm tired of that.
Yeah, you don't like this generalization.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And I think I agree with you. I think women are... Do I agree with you? Because you're saying you don't think that they are too masculine. I don't think that... Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they're too masculine. I think they are more masculine than they used to be. But I'm like, I don't think that that's such a bad thing. Because like you're saying, I think it depends on what's going on in that relationship. And I think if you want your girlfriend or your wife to be more feminine, you really need to look at yourself and whether or not you're cultivating that femininity in her, if you're giving her that space to be feminine. And I know a lot of guys are not going to want to hear that because it just sounds like we're blaming the men, but I'm not. I'm literally trying to say sometimes we don't think about the effect we have on other people. We just think about how those people are behaving or being, but we don't think about how our actions impact other people. And so it's about, first look at yourself. Are you actually being the kind of person that will cultivate that femininity in her? And be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you can say, yeah, hand on heart, I am. I protect her. I make her feel safe. I make her feel comfortable. I'm there for her emotionally. I provide for her where I can. And she is not feminine, then maybe that's, like Frank said, that's just the type of woman she is or what she's been through that's causing that. And maybe it's a personality thing, like maybe you just don't fit, you know. But most of the time I think if men in today's society really think about it, a lot of the reasons rests with the kind of men that the women are up against. Sometimes it's like they're not always in a space where they can just relax. They're feeling like they have to protect themselves. And you're going to keep your guard up if you feel like you have to keep protecting yourself. So I think the question is also to men, you know, if you feel like modern women are too masculine, are you masculine enough then for her to not be masculine? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Are you doing the right things?
Yeah. And is that the kind of woman you even want anyway? Like we've said before, do you really want a feminine woman? Because there's a lot that comes with that. It's not just feminine, tailor fit for you.
It's true. And as a man, you could be getting drawn to these type of women that are like always showing that masculinity. There's a question around that. You know, so it's hard.
What kind of woman are you drawing to you? Yeah. That's interesting.
But I do feel like you said, you're right. It starts with the men. I will say that. It does start with the men. If we portrayed more masculinity, I think a lot of women will be more feminine. I believe that. If we just did as the norm, as the basic, like we just take care of what we need to take care of, do what we need to do. So you can, as a man, you can encourage that.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can encourage that. So I think there's a lot more to this discussion
then it meets the eye. And I think, you're right. Social media is confusing the situation because there's so much double talk. There's so much we want women to not rely on men. I'm not here to provide for you. I'm not going to fund your lifestyle. But then at the same time, you want a certain type of woman. It's like, is that even the same woman? Are you talking about the same woman? Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes there's a lot of confusion in terms of the discussions that's being had. It's like, sometimes the type of woman that's being spoken about, I'm like, but that's a very specific type of woman. She's going to want a specific type of man.
Yeah, exactly.
And the man that's even talking about it, I don't even think he's he's not that type of man.
There you go.
So it's like social media is double talking. You know, we're double talking. There's all this confusing rhetoric about, you know, gold diggers versus proper women that hold themselves a certain way. And it's like, you know, don't be easy. But at the same time, it's like men want women that don't have, their standards are not too high. You can't have too high standards. It's like, But you don't want women that are easy. You don't want women that are giving themselves away too much. You don't want women that have daddy issues and they're just out here going to any guy that shows them affection. But then at the same time, you're like, oh, yeah, but, you know, women's standards are too high. And these women think they deserve the world when really they should just be going for average men. It's like, some of that, it sounds a bit confusing because it's like a woman should go for a man that meets her standards. And if she has standards, she should stick to those standards. She shouldn't then reduce her standards to go for the men that are being presented to her, because that's the whole point about having your standards. So I feel like there's a lot of double talk and it can be very confusing for men and women out there.
It is.
And I think, when we're talking about masculinity and femininity, I think we need to first realize that there is both in us. And in today's society, we automatically encourage women to be more masculine. Most of these men that say these things about women being too masculine, if they had daughters, they will raise them to be very self-reliant.
Exactly.
They'll probably raise them to be very masculine in terms of how other men will perceive them.
Don't rely on the man. I don't know how these men raise their daughters.
Yeah.
But depend on yourself, rely on yourself. And if they grow up like that, they'll be labeled as too masculine.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? Yeah.
So I think you're right. You know, we might be too masculine out here in the world, but in the relationship, what your girlfriend or your wife shows up as and how she stays in that relationship is a lot more to do with you than you might realize.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing for women, you know. If you're in a relationship with a guy who's not being the way you want him to be, the length of time that he remains that way has a lot to do with how you are in that relationship, or even just the fact that you're still in that relationship. You know?
I agree.
Yeah. So I guess that was a different take on it, but
I think it was a good one.
Yeah, we're not talking about these things in the right way, and I think it is about cultivating both masculinity and femininity in both of us, men and women, and using it at the right time.
It is the right time.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. That's it.
So that's it, guys. You've heard what we've got to say about whether or not we think modern women really are too masculine in relationships. We've defined masculinity and femininity. We've talked about the ways in which this is showing up in relationships. We've talked about societal influences, the media, and we've given our personal views. We really hope you tune into the next episode where we'll be talking about love languages. Now, this is what we were initially planning to talk about, but we'll be doing it in the next episode. So tune in to listen to what we think about whether or not love languages really work in relationships. And let us know if there's anything else that you would like us to talk about, topic-wise, because we really want to cover things that add value to your lives and your relationships. So at any point, send us an email or a DM and let us know if there's a specific topic you want us to cover. Don't forget to email us any of your questions, comments, or dilemmas at itt.thepodcast@gmail.com or send us a DM on Instagram at ITTpodcast, all one word. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll speak to you on the next one.
Bye.